Potential. Welcome to Level 5 of RPG Potential. I'm Cody, and in this episode, I'm talking with Samanthuel Louise Gillson. She created Franken, a short and sweet RPG available for free on itch.io. Thanks for talking with me. What are some of your favorite RPGs and why?
I have a lot of favorite RPGs. I think one of my favorites ever is Digimon World for the PlayStation. It's such a strange game. It's like very poorly translated, and the world is like, it asks these very bizarre things of you to do, but there's just something extremely like compelling about like the world that it presents. It just really feels like you're in like this strange other world, and I don't know, there's something beautiful about it to me, even though it's like it's not very well refined or anything like that. I just love the game.
So is that on the original PlayStation?
Yeah, this is PlayStation. There's a lot of Digimon World games, although they're all like wildly different from one another, but I like the original one the most.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of the series.
By the end of it, like the fourth one, they have like swords, and it's like a little like Diablo kind of game. It's very funny. They're wildly different, but the first one is like, it's like you have like a virtual pet RPG essentially, where you have to like raise your Digimon and see what it turns into. You really have little control over what it will evolve into unless you look at a bunch of spreadsheets. So I just kind of wing it and just accept whatever I get. But
yeah.
and it's probably not a big surprise that I really like the Mother series, and
Yes.
I love the Final Fantasies and Dragon Quest games. Really like, I mean, Moon RPG is not a RPG really. It's like a weird like
something. Yeah, it's hard to explain what that is.
It has the aesthetics of an RPG, but it's it's its own thing. I just love the worlds of these games, and also I have to mention Space Funeral as well for being like a huge influence on me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard of that game, but I've never actually played that one yet.
It's good. It's like just got this amazing style and like soundtrack. Similar to like Franken, it just has like a bunch of like music that the Catamites thought was cool.
Awesome. How did you first come up with the idea for Megaman Sprite game all that time ago? And what do you think were the most important lessons you learned from making that?
Megaman Sprite game. Yes, this is God, how old is it now? I made it in like Halloween of 2012. So that game came about because a friend of mine at the time was like they were just making like these Mega Man sprites like in like a new like art style, just as like a fun little like art experiment. And I saw them and I was just like, I was quite tired, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna make my own Mega Man sprite. And then I made the Mega Man sprite that's and I made a bunch of other characters, and then like I made a comic about them, and I thought like, okay, well this is kind of funny, but it's also like complete junk, and I'll make like a handful of these and then forget about it. and I didn't forget about it. I made a lot of them, and I've always liked RPGs. There's an old Flash cartoon series that I owe a lot to called Orphan House, which
I've never heard of that.
It's like from 2002, I think.
Was it on YouTube or something?
It was pre-YouTube. It was like on Newgrounds, and so it was it was very crude, and it was based off a series of RPGs that were like made to be like these like crass like parodies of the genre, essentially based around this engine called OHR RPG CE, which is what I use. I just thought like, I know how to use this engine because I like grew up like using it. I'd never really made like an RPG with it before. I just made like castles to share with my friends in like a kind of like proto Minecraft kind of style, I guess. Just create stuff and share it. So it's like, okay, I know how to make this. I have this stupid Mega Man thing. I'm going to make a game about it, and intentionally just kind of like make it have as little to do with Mega Man as possible. Like, it's about ghosts and basketball. There's really not much to do with Mega Man, just other than some like what I would describe as like very limp throwings of the bone to the series to like remind you that it's still in that. But it's it's just its own thing. The important lessons I learned making Mega Man Sprite game, I think For one, so Mega Man Sprite game has this bad ending. Do you know about it?
I feel like I've heard that it had multiple endings, but I actually haven't played it all the way through before.
Right. So about 15 minutes in or so, there's a part where like the police arrest you and they claim that you have walked off the path onto the grass. And if you have in fact done that, the game is over and you get a bad ending and you go to prison. And this is a really strange joke that I put in. I don't really remember. It was kind of like the bad ending like in Cave Story. Not so much the bad ending, like the true ending in that is quite like cryptic to get. And
right.
I just thought it would be funny to just put this like really weird like bad ending condition in that almost everyone is guaranteed to get. And so you just waste like 15 minutes of your time. And I don't think that was like a great way to introduce people to my work in some ways. Also, the people who stick with it, they are rewarded. Like all of the best parts of the game come after that point. So I guess my lesson is don't make a bad ending for stepping on grass. And but also I also think that like my sense of humor has changed a lot. So at the time, this is like ages ago, I had like my Skype just like publicly out there for people to just add me if they wanted to, and I constantly had people just like quoting this at me and like just calling me like a prick and an asshole for whatever reason, and I always forgot that they were doing like a Mega Man thing. I thought it's like, why did you just add me to insult me? And and I think that just kind of like, okay, I think I don't want to make this kind of like abrasive humor anymore, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Even though I'm not like, it's not like I think any of my stuff is like morally instructive in any sense of the term, but it's just I just didn't I didn't really like that response, I guess, even though I understood why they were doing it. But
yeah, that makes sense. Franken is a lot more lighthearted, I think.
It's a lot more lighthearted. It's like insulting, I think.
Yeah.
Even though I still have like a fondness for Mega Man Sprite game, I just think like, okay, I think it's just not what I want to make right now.
Right. Yeah. So what made you first start to work on Franken, and what drove you to see that project through to the end?
Franken, so this is more recent. I can like recall this a lot clearly.
Yeah.
Franken, and I'm going to spoil Franken in some ways because I have to. It was like the thing that made me want to make the game. Is I was wandering around my house and I just started like giggling to myself at the idea of an RPG where you like fight God and then for some reason you have to fight Frankenstein afterwards. Like I was just like, okay, that's really stupid. And I have like a big fondness for Final Fantasy IV in terms of like the older Final Fantasies that are like way more like sword and sorcery themed. I think that's just like such a fun game with like really good designs. I was just like thinking about how much I like that game, but I didn't want to like commit to a full playthrough. So I ended up like skimming through like a long play of it and just kind of like thinking about like all of these characters that you meet and everything. And I ended up like just kind of watching the whole game in like about like 45 minutes, just skimming through the best bits. And I thought like I could just make this RPG and just have it be like a speedrun version of like a Final Fantasy game and just see like, will that still have like any kind of connection with people if you just kind of like, gesture towards like these like RPG ideas,
Yeah.
Like here's your friend who shows up and dies, and that takes place within like the span of 2 minutes.
Right.
And it's like I've watched like Let's Plays where people were like, no, I can't believe you did that. I wanted to marry this character, and it was just that was amazing to me. You really don't need much. Yeah, and so I just ended up coming up with like the story for like why is there a Frankenstein in this, and I made the whole battle system in like an hour. The original idea for Franken was to try and make a whole RPG in like a day or two or like a week. And I think I might have been able to do that if I'd like really committed to it, but I ended up like just letting it be a side project. And that's how Franken came about.
What are some of your favorite character designs you've ever made for any project? Either your old games or for anyone else's games or for any other project that you've worked on?
Oh, goodness, yes. So I'm really fond of Pop-Up from Deltarune Chapter 2. I put a surprising amount of thought into that one. I was thinking, like, okay, a dolphin is like a noisy animal that kind of like comes out of the water, so it's like that is what a pop-up is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I really like them. I really like Scolopendra from the recent game Great Godgrove by Yugo Limbo, which I also voiced. And you know, she's like an old, like, insect-themed woman, which is where I'd like to see myself in, like, 30, 40 years. And you know, and it, just in Franken as well, I really like Eclipse on. I think they look awesome.
Yeah, their design is really cool.
I just wanted them to look like this big melodramatic god.
Yeah, I really like them.
Thank you.
Which games and other art have been the largest inspirations for how you design your characters?
Oh, yeah, so I should know, I like looked at all these questions before. I did not plan my answers out very well, so I am winging it a bit here.
That's okay.
But I think that the biggest like influence on my work is an artist, late artist Yasushi Nirasawa, who, you know, he did a lot of like work for like Shin Megami Tensei and like Tokusatsu stuff, and there's some incredible designs that he did for PlayStation 1 like tactical RPG called Volfos, which just has some of the best character designs I've ever seen. And there's quite a lot of other ones. Like, I love the kind of like mix of like cartoony and eerie that some of the creatures in the Mother series have. Not a lot of them are more like just like silly, but there's like some genuinely kind of cool like alien stuff in Earthbound that I really like.
Yeah, there's so many cool designs in the Mother series.
Yeah, and you know, the mechanical work of like Yutaka Izubuchi is also like a huge inspiration on me for like my robot characters. I'm just trying to think of like some other ones, but I think those are like the ones I would immediately point to. And like Amano's like Final Fantasy stuff is just gorgeous.
Right, yeah, of course. For the topic of the RPG genre itself, what aspects of a game do you think define it as an RPG? And this is the hardest question that I usually ask everyone I've interviewed, because I think it is pretty hard.
This is a hard question. It's kind of like, I always kind of conceptualize it. It's just kind of like, there's like a certain level of investment you have in your character in an RPG that you don't always have in like other genres. Like, you wouldn't probably call Mario like an RPG because you're not like upgrading Mario or like really experiencing Mario's story. I mean, you are, but like it doesn't matter. And
yeah, so you think it's more based on the investment in the characters that you're controlling?
Yeah, I feel like it is, because it's like, I mean, you can get invested in like any character is the thing, but I think it's just like you have more of a say in like the growth of them. I mean, a lot of games these days have like RPG mechanics atop them, but then also the Final Fantasy games aren't like turn-based anymore. The line is very blurred these days, I think, which is cool. That's a very hard question, but it is something fun to think about. I think this is the one I was thinking about the most before this, and I never quite came up with like a good answer, but
that's okay. Yeah, that's a solid answer though that you had already, like investment in the character. I haven't really heard that from anybody else yet, but that one does make sense too. Yeah,
it's just kind of like you're kind of guiding them and like choosing who this character is a little bit,
right?
You know, like in Pokemon, you're like customizing your character just by thinking like, well, in this playthrough, the Pokemon trainer really loves Grimer and Muck, and that's the character, you know. Not like all of them have like characters that you can even like project yourself onto either, but it's just, you know.
Yeah, so I was actually the next question is actually about the character you control. So there are a lot of RPGs that ask you to input a name and create a design for the protagonist. Do you have any favorite names or types of protagonists that you tend to make, or is it just based on the game or however you're feeling?
Yeah, I usually try and like meet a game halfway, and like, you know, I want to like know what kind of world this is and okay, what's going on in this world. I tend to like like kind of simple characters. I like just being like a barbarian or like a thief, I guess. I guess this is a later question, but I'll answer it now.
Sure.
Like favorite names and types of characters. I tend to just go for like, I really like just being like a big strong idiot a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I played through like Dragon Quest 11 a while ago, and I was like, okay, you have your character choice is just great sword or like small sword. I'm always gonna go for like the larger one and just be like a bit of a bruiser, I guess. But for like character creation, it kind of varies. I was playing through like Skyrim somewhat recently, just because it's like, it's a game that I have on my computer. And in that game, I was just like, I'm going to be like a thief for this one, and have like a weird blue face because I have like a million mods. So
yeah. When it comes to like protagonists in the story of an RPG too, do you prefer playing as protagonists that have like a more defined personality, or protagonists that are more like an avatar, or does it depend on how the game uses them that matters most to you?
I think it is, there's a lot of like silent characters out there, but I don't actually feel like having a defined character like can take you out of it unless they're like really different to who you are. Because an example I always really love is RuneScape.
Oh, yeah.
It's an MMO, and that game has like really good quests where your character isn't like a silent avatar. They have like stupid dialogue that they will like chime in with, and they have like their own thoughts and opinions on things. And I never really feel like I'm disconnected from this character, even though they actually have a personality. So I kind of feel like it's fun to write like a protagonist, like, they have dialogue, but you can just like inhabit that person for the game. So
right.
I think I tend to prefer like non-silent protagonists, honestly.
I guess we kind of talked about this before. Do you have a favorite character archetype or job role? So you like the bruiser types of characters. Does the same go for your party too?
I like to have like a good mix in a party. I mean, I like to be either like a bruiser or like a ranger or a thief or something. But I always want to have like, if there's like a party system, I always want to have just like the typical archetypes, because it's just kind of like, I grew up with a lot of this kind of like sword and sorcery media. And
yeah,
I used to like where I used to live, there was like a bunch of like fields and woods behind my house, and I'd always go there with my friends and hit them with sticks.
I had a similar experience growing up.
Everyone hits each other with sticks at some point.
Yes.
And so I was always wanting to be, I just kind of like the idea of like adventurer as like an archetype in some way, like just someone who like does it all in some sense.
How much do you value the relationship between game mechanics and story now? So less on the characters and more on how you think everything works together well in an RPG or any game, really.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think that the game mechanics are the story a lot of the time, because there's, I don't remember the story of like Pokemon Silver that well, but I do remember the story that I experienced of spending half an hour trying to catch a Stantler of all things, because it's very stubborn.
Right.
And like that to me is like, that's the story I took away from it, is like, what I had experienced there. And I think that's just like true of like a lot of games. Like, people want to tell you about like what happened to them in like, like Minecraft or just all these other things. But, I also love a good written story. And I always think that like the first Portal game is a really good example of these like things coming together, especially for like the end where you kind of break free of the confines of it.
True. Yeah.
That's like a very obvious like example in some ways, but I think there's a lot of games where there's like a disconnect between what you do in the story and what you do in the game. Like there's a lot of games that try and have like this cinematic story where in the gameplay you're like the most murderous person to ever exist, and that just doesn't work for me. That is a very silly story to tell about like the emotions of the most violent killer to ever exist and trying to like condemn violence or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's obviously like a lot usually more common in like bigger games, but I think when it goes wrong, it can really feel wrong. you know?
Yeah, when you stop to think about a story where a protagonist or somebody, the whole party is just killing everything. Yeah, sometimes it's a little weird.
It's a little weird, and in some ways I just prefer they just like, okay, it's just a game where you kill people. That's a fine thing to make, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes there's just a separation there and there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Which events in your own life and stories and media influenced the characters and story in Franken? I know you were talking about earlier how the thought just came to you of Franken's ending, basically. But was there anything else that kind of influenced the characters or anything else in Franken?
Just like in my life, this is like a hard one to answer as well, but I think like generally a lot of my games are just kind of like things I find funny in some way. Like I'm mostly making them to make myself laugh, I think.
Yeah.
So, but like stories in media and like my life, I don't think I can answer this one very well. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. What advice would you give to anybody out there who wants to make their own game?
I think the best advice is to just make a game however you know how. Even if it's like Twine or something, like once you start making a game, you'll have something that's like finished. Because I think some of the biggest lessons I've learned is to not like just sit on ideas because you don't feel that you are capable of like fully realizing them now. I had this one like huge idea for a game like ages and ages ago, and I never made it because I was just like, no, I need to wait until I can like make this as good as it can possibly be. And really I should have just tried to make it with whatever means I have, because whatever you make won't be the last thing you make, other than the last thing you make before you die is, I guess. But
yeah,
anything that you like, it's good to make like smaller things as well, but also you shouldn't worry about like leaving your big ideas off the table, because I think you can just use them in the future and it will always be there. So just try and make something now, and you'll get like a good feel for like making things rather than just waiting for like the perfect game to make to come along, I guess. And also just learning to program is useful, because I've been the artist before who's just like, I'll make the story and graphics and I'll just find someone to program it for me. And like there's very few people who want to actually do that unless they're a friend. So just don't be afraid of it. Just try and like make something in some form.
Yeah, getting started is half the battle.
It is. And I'm making games with like RPG software from like 1998. You don't have to use like big industry standard software to make a game. You can make something really cool in like Bitsy or Twine or just all these things that you could like make a whole game in like an afternoon, and it will be something that you can like release and other people can see.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. So what projects are you working on now? And is there anything else you'd like to mention now that we're at the end?
Yeah, so right now, I'm working on a game called Formless Star, which I'm actually finished with it. I'm just doing some like bug fixes and tests. It's like a game about going to this like randomly generated planet and finding animals there. That'll be released like really soon. Like I don't know when this is going up.
Probably gonna go up in like July.
Right, yeah, it'll probably be okay. So Formless Star will actually be released by then.
Yeah.
And I also have my larger game, Amazing Treasure Valley, which that's like a long project that I've been working on, and I'm hoping to get that finished like within the next couple years, because it's it's a huge game and I just want other people to be able to play it at last.
Yeah, I'm excited to play both of them. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. Formless Star will be out soon, and I'm just excited for people to just be able to play that.
Thanks again to Samanthuel Louise Gillson for joining me to talk about Franken. The game is available now on itch.io, and check out her new game too, Formless Star. Thanks for listening. I'm Cody, and this has been RPG Potential.